Well, great to be in Pensacola. We were here 2 weeks ago with our Garcon Point Bridge announcement over next door, and we were happy to be able to reduce the tolls there. I know a lot of people in these communities really appreciate that. I also want to thank Escambia County Sheriff Chip Simmons for having us. I also want to thank Dane Eagle from the Department of Economic Opportunity. Of course, we have Senator Broxton, Representative Alex Andrade here. I think we have some county commissioners from Escambia County. Welcome you, and then obviously a lot of the officers that are sitting here with us today. We, during the last legislative session, I thought it was important, particularly given the last year and a half, the way a lot of, quite frankly, law enforcement were treated very poorly throughout the country, that we showed our appreciation here in the state of Florida for the folks that wore the uniform. So I proposed that we do $1,000 bonuses for all sworn law enforcement officers in the state of Florida. That's almost 50,000 people, as well as fire and EMTs, our first responders. And so we thought it was a good idea. We were hoping to get the support for it, and we were able to get it through the legislature. And I signed the bill into law. I signed the bill with the budget into law in June. And so then that made it a reality, but then we had to actually do it from the administrative perspective. So I told Dane Eagle, I was like, we got to get these checks out. It's not like we just have all these names sitting around in the state of Florida in the one database. We had to like get the sheriff's departments, the police departments, everyone to send in. So we were able to do that. And then now we'll obviously be handing out checks here. A lot of people will be getting them in the mail this week and next week. And we're really excited about that. This morning we were down in Surfside with the Task Force 1 and 2 from the City of Miami and the Miami-Dade County Fire Departments. And we did this prior to that happening, obviously. We had signed the budget in early June, but we knew when we did that when something happens, you have folks who are expected to show up, and it's the people wearing the uniform. And the Surfside is an example. You know, they were there saving people right away. And then as those initial folks were saved, you had a big pile of rubble. And it was unlike anything I've ever seen. And they worked tirelessly going through that, for trying to find any sign of life. And they put their heart and souls into that. And it was a very, very emotional duty. It was very trying. You know, there was one example. There was a firefighter who volunteered to help the task force. The guy's daughter was in Champlain Towers. And so they actually, when they found her remains, they did a impromptu memorial there. And so these are the types of things where, you know, it takes a toll, and they really did a great job. So we were happy to be able to be there with them. We were also in Jacksonville earlier today with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, and they've obviously got a lot on their hands and have worked very, very hard. And we're really happy to be here in Pensacola with the Escambia County Sheriff's Department. You know, the last year and a half, police officers and folks who wear the uniform, you really can't do that on Zoom. You got to be out there. You got to be responding, and they did that. They assisted with a whole host of issues, even beyond their typical bailiwick, and particularly involving the coronavirus relief efforts. And so I think that they've really been leaders in these communities. I recently heard about the Sheriff's Blazer Academy. And it seems like a really good idea. They'll be mentoring young men ages 13 to 15, building their confidence and teaching them responsibility and respect. And the fact that this program is funded by seized drug money makes it even better, because they're putting that money to good use. And so stopping the drug dealers now and using the money to hopefully deprive them of future clients is really a 1-2 punch. In addition to creating programs to help support their community, deputies work tirelessly to keep the citizens of Escambia County safe. Standing with us today, we have investigators Jake Bandersky and Christy Tatum. On May 18th of this year, these two deputies assisted their major crimes unit in the investigation of the attempted kidnapping of an 11-year-old girl. The girl was waiting at her bus stop when a man grabbed her in broad daylight, attempting to kidnap her. Luckily, she was able to break free and run home, but the assailant was still on the loose. Both investigators canvassed the scene, collected surveillance video, and helped piece together information that led to the arrest of 30-year-old Jared Paul Stenga for this horrific crime. They were able to get a predator off the streets, and we thank them for it. So thank you guys for your hard work.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks so much. Yep. So we, do the bonuses. They're well deserved. It's also our way just to say thank you. If you look around the country, in a lot of law enforcement agencies, morale is at an all-time low. And I know you have people coming from other states. They want to get to Florida, and I'm not saying that we've solved every problem here, but I think that through this effort and other things we've done, folks would know that wear the uniform, know Florida stands behind them, and that we support the men and women of law enforcement. I want to thank the First Lady who's here. She's going to say a few things, and then we'll hear from some of our other speakers. I think we've got Dane Eagle to hand out some checks, and I think we've also got, who else is going to, so Dane will come out here, give some remarks, then we'll hand out the checks. So
to that end, I'll be super fast. I just really wanted to come with Madison today just to say thank you, really, for all that you do to serve and protect. We were with some first responders earlier today, and just so you all know, this is very special for us because we're very fortunate to live in the governor's mansion. And just about 4 blocks from the mansion, there is a fire station. And whenever we hear the sirens go by, the kids always perk up and they always say, "There goes our firefighter friends," and there they go to the rescue. And so it's really neat that we've had the opportunity to take them to that fire station, to learn a little bit about what they do, but then the opportunity to be First Lady, to be able to see, obviously, as the governor mentioned in Surfside, the selfless sacrifice that everybody puts forth is very meaningful. And that's one of the reasons why we're working with the Department of Children and Families. We're also working with our legislative partners and our federal partners to look at some of these block grants, to see if there's a way that we can use and utilize some of that money to be able to help our first responders specifically about and with their emotional well-being. Because when you're serving and sacrificing, that often, as the governor says, comes with a toll, an emotional toll. And so we've found in a lot of roundtables and very candid conversations with first responders that one of the things that is the most meaningful is being able to have that outlet with a peer, somebody who has that relatable experience. And so we're looking for those opportunities with pre-existing funding and working with our partners to be able to maximize that so that we're helping those who help us on a daily basis. So really, we want to be here. And as soon as Madison found out that we were going to go say thank you to police and first responders, I said, "Madison, do you want to go?" And she goes, "Yes." And so she wanted to come and hand out some checks. So thank you for what you do, and thank you for your service.
all right, Dane.
Well, thank you all for being here today, and really thank you to the governor and the First Lady, the First Family, really, Madison here as well, for prioritizing first responders across the entire state. This was a priority of the governor this last legislative session, and ensuring that our first responders, our policemen and women, firefighters, EMS are recognized for what they had to do through COVID, and even beyond that. It was a tough year for all of them, and for our legislature for stepping up and answering the call. Senator Brox and Representative Andrade, 2 great guys I got to serve with. It's really amazing to see that kind of service in Florida. Department of Economic Opportunity was just privileged and honored to help carry out the governor's vision in coordinating with the various offices, sheriff's offices, police, EMT, fire across the state to get these checks out in a meaningful and efficient manner. And here we are today just recognizing some of the cream of the crop. Governor and First Lady could have gone anywhere in the state today. They picked 3 locations and they wanted to be in Pensacola. So here we are. Without further ado, we'll get started. And as we call your name, please come up, and the governor and the sheriff.
What are we going to do right here?
I think that's a great spot for it. And we'll start with the 2 the governor recognized. Deputy Sheriff Jake Bandersky. Deputy Sheriff Christy Tatum. Deputy Sheriff K-9 Matthew Beatty. Deputy Sheriff First Class Romaine Brissett. Deputy Sheriff Sheila Cheeks. Sergeant Peter Gallion. Deputy Sheriff Jeremy Horn. Sergeant Shedrick Johnson. Sergeant Peter Kamawi. Deputy Sheriff K-9 Megan Kearns. Deputy Sheriff Bobby Kiersey. Deputy Sheriff Raven McGee. Deputy Sheriff First Class Joan Savage. Deputy Sheriff Brandon Schuler. Deputy Sheriff On Thatch. Deputy Sheriff Olivia Washington. And Deputy Sheriff First Class Michael Williams.
Did we leave out the sheriff, or is he getting his too?
It's my checks in the mail.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so we'll end up, people that didn't get them today, they may have already gotten them in the mail, or we will be getting, they'll be arriving pretty soon, so either this week or next week. And that's also true with the principal and teacher bonuses. Those should be arriving this week and into next week. So we're happy to be able to do that. And we're going to look to do more for law enforcement. I think coming up in the next year, I have some initiatives we'll probably be rolling out pretty soon. I think it's important that that we maintain this as a profession that's going to attract good people. And there's a lot of things that go into that, morale, some others, but I mean, we do want them to be able to make a decent living. And so it's important. We're looking at our state agencies, what we can do with some of those state law enforcement in terms of making sure that they're compensated better. So we'll have probably a flurry of proposals on that, but we do think it's important. I know we've had from some of these other departments across the country where they've been treated very poorly. I mean, I know we've had people come down to Florida and sign up with some of these other departments, and so I think that the fact that we're a state that really welcomes the good law enforcement, I think is very, very important. Okay, with that, yes, sir.
Mr. Governor, earlier today, Press Secretary Psaki said that if state superintendents that violated the state mandate for mask mandates did not receive their salaries as you indicated, that the federal government would intervene and pay those people. What do you make of that? What's your reaction? And do you think the federal government is perhaps intervening in Florida State's COVID policy?
I think that they really believe government should rule over the parents' decisions, and I think the parents' decisions in this regard should ultimately be what is done. The fact of the matter is the parents are in the best position to know what's best for their kids. There was I think Anthony Fauci was on a radio program yesterday. He said, we don't know if it's harmful. We haven't studied it. We hope it's not. Well, there's a lot of parents that don't want their young kids to necessarily be sitting there for 8 hours, particularly the kindergartners, the first graders, the second graders. So we believe in empowering the parents. They obviously want the government to force and to use coercion. Our policy, based on the Parents' Bill of Rights, is this is the parents' decision under Florida law at this point. Now this is a new law that was just signed. It wasn't necessarily in effect last year. So we're in a situation now where we believe that the parents' rights will be vindicated, and we'll work to make sure that that happens in any way we can. But the idea that the federal government would get involved in that, I think obviously would be very inappropriate.
Governor.
Yes.
Welcome again.
Yep.
Pensacola, good to see you. Here's a line from your executive order. Studies have shown that children are at a low risk of contracting a serious illness due to COVID-19 and do not play a significant role in the spread of the virus. But here in Northwest Florida, Governor, right now there are children in area hospitals who have COVID. We have confirmed it. We know some of those kids right now are on ventilators. So given that, what can you say to parents as school starts this week here about keeping kids safe from COVID
Well,
in schools?
everything in that is 100% true. They are at low risk. If you look at the whole pandemic, however many people were hospitalized in the state of Florida at any given time, between 1.1 and 1.4% of that were children. So the overwhelming majority, 98+%. Right now, it's 1.3% of all the hospitalizations. Now, what I would also say is we've had a wave of RSV throughout the country. That is putting more kids in the hospital than COVID. That's a very significant risk, much more riskier than COVID. I would also say, based on surveys of hospitals, between 25 and 40% of all COVID-positive pediatric patients are incidentally positive. In other words, they're being treated for something other than COVID, and they're in and happen to test positive because they test everyone that goes through. So there's not been any change in how this impacts kids. It doesn't mean that theoretically it can't. And I think if you look throughout the country, if you look at the under 18 kids who have died with COVID,